Midnight. The phone wasn't mine. I realized it 3 stops into the train ride. The case was wrong. Dark blue leather, worn at the edges. Mine was burgundy, brand new, still stiff. I stared at the screen. My husband's face stared back from the lock screen wallpaper. A photo I had taken last summer at Alki Beach. He was squinting into the sun, smiling. I remembered that day. He had held my hand and talked about buying a house with a garden. A garden for our future children. I was 7 weeks pregnant. He didn't know yet. I was waiting for the right moment. Seattle. 7:42 a.m. The train swayed as it pulled out of the tunnel. Rain streaked the windows in long, dirty rivulets. The woman next to me smelled of stale perfume and wet wool. I gripped the phone in my hand, debating whether to text him and tell him I had it. My name is Claire Bennett. 33 years old. 16 years of accounting experience. 14 of those at the same logistics firm, climbing from junior clerk to senior internal audit specialist. I am the woman who finds the missing penny. The woman who traces the paper trail. The woman who photographs every receipt, every contract, every suspicious email, and files them in labeled folders on 3 different backup drives. My colleagues joke that I have a photographic memory. I don't. I just know that people lie. Numbers don't. I was about to text my husband, Evan, when the phone buzzed in my hand. A name flashed on the screen, Irina. His sister. 39. Stay-at-home mom. The self-appointed guardian of the Vance family legacy. The woman who had spent the last 7 years of my marriage telling Evan I was too independent, too focused on my career, too cold to be a real wife. I should have let it ring. I should have ignored it. But years of training, the instinct to document everything, made me swipe to answer. Hello. Silence on the other end. A breath. Then Irina's voice, sharp and impatient. Evan? Why aren't you picking up? I've been calling for an hour. Listen, tell me you finally found a way to get rid of her. We already have a buyer for the apartment. $276,000 cash. The realtor called this morning. We just need her signature on the papers. I stopped breathing. The train lurched. The woman next to me bumped into my shoulder. I didn't feel it. The phone was pressed so hard against my ear that my fingers went white. Hello? Evan? Are you there? I opened my mouth. No sound came out. My throat was full of glass. Evan, don't you dare go soft on me now, Irina snapped. The plan is solid. She signs the divorce papers, we get the apartment, you get your freedom. I told you, she doesn't deserve any of it. That woman is a walking spreadsheet. She's never loved you. Not like a wife should. You gave her 7 years. 7 years of your life. And what did she give you? A cold bed and a career. You deserve better. You deserve a family. Her voice softened, almost conspiratorial. Just don't let her find out about the meeting on Friday. We've got 11 days. 11 days and you're free. I've handled everything. The realtor is a friend of a friend. The documents are ready. Just get her to sign. The phone slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the train floor. A man in a suit picked it up and handed it back to me. I heard Irina's voice crackling through the earpiece. Evan? Hello? What's going on? I pressed the phone back to my ear. My voice came out as a whisper. It's Claire. Silence. Then Irina laughed. A short, sharp, incredulous laugh. Oh, it's you. Yes, I said. It's me. Where's my brother? He forgot his phone. I paused. He always forgets things lately. Appointments. Promises. Our wedding anniversary. And now, his phone. Irina was quiet for a moment. Then her voice shifted. Slick. Accommodating. Claire, listen, you misheard me. I was talking about a property investment. A rental property. Evan and I have been discussing it for weeks. I was just stressed, that's all. You know how I get. I say things without thinking. Is that right? Yes. Of course. Evan will explain everything. Just don't do anything rash, okay? I ended the call. The train pulled into my station. I stood up. My legs were shaking. The woman next to me looked at me with concern. Are you all right, dear? You're pale as paper. I nodded. Fine. Just fine. I walked out of the train and onto the platform. The morning crowd pushed past me, rushing to their offices, their meetings, their ordinary lives. None of them knew that in my hands, I was holding a recording. Because I had a habit. A habit that had saved me more times than I could count. My phone automatically recorded every incoming and outgoing call. A backup app one installed after a vendor once tried to deny a contract we had verbally agreed on. I never deleted the recordings. I never had to. I pulled up the app. The call with Irina was there. 3 minutes and 22 seconds. I pressed play and listened to her voice again. We already have a buyer for the apartment. $276,000 cash. 11 days. Just get her to sign. I saved the file. I backed it up to the cloud. Then I opened our family group chat. The one where Irina and Evan discussed family matters. I scrolled up, and up, and up. There it was. A message from Irina, dated 3 weeks ago. We need to move fast. She's distracted with work. I'll find a realtor. You just handle the emotional part. Evan's reply, she'll never suspect. She trusts me. I locked the phone and put it in my pocket. I walked to the office. I sat through a morning meeting. I reviewed spreadsheets. I approved invoices. I smiled at my colleagues. Nobody knew that my world had just collapsed. When I got home that evening, Evan was sitting on the couch, watching TV. He looked up when I walked in. Hey, you're back. Did you see my phone? I think I left it. Here. I handed it to him. You left it in the bathroom this morning. He took it. Thanks. You okay? You look tired. I walked past him. I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I opened the top drawer of the vanity and pulled out my red notebook. The one with all my financial records. The one Evan didn't know existed. I turned to the last page and wrote, April 14th. Irina called. She told Evan to get rid of me. They have a buyer. 11 days. $276,000. Meeting on Friday. I closed the notebook and put it back. Then I sat on the edge of the bathtub and looked at myself in the mirror. A woman with dark circles under her eyes. A woman who had spent her whole life trusting the wrong people. A woman who had just pressed the record button. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside Evan in the dark, listening to his breathing. Steady. Peaceful. The breathing of a man who had just been told by his sister that his wife of 7 years was nothing but an obstacle. An asset to be liquidated. A signature to be obtained. I stared at the ceiling and counted the minutes until dawn. At 3:47 a.m., I slipped out of bed. Barefoot. Silent. I knew every creaky floorboard in this apartment. I had lived here for 12 years. Long before Evan. Long before the wedding. Long before I made the mistake of letting someone else hold the keys to my life. The apartment was mine. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a balcony overlooking the city. I had bought it with my savings. My money. My name on the deed. I had worked 14-hour days for 6 years to afford the down payment. I had painted the walls myself. I had picked every piece of furniture. And now his sister was planning to sell it. Like it was a used car. Like I was already gone. I walked into the living room. The city lights flickered through the rain-streaked windows. Seattle never stopped raining in April. It was a soft, persistent drizzle that soaked into your bones and made you forget what the sun looked like. I had loved that rain once. It felt like home. Now it just felt cold. I opened my laptop on the kitchen counter. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. I pulled up my backup drive. I had folders for everything: tax returns, bank statements, property records, receipts for every major purchase, copies of every contract I had ever signed. I opened the folder labeled Evan Financial and started scrolling. Mortgage payments, utility bills, grocery receipts, his salary deposits, his credit card statements. Everything I had meticulously tracked for years. Not because I didn't trust him. Because I trusted numbers. Numbers never woke up one morning and decided to sell your home out from under you. I opened his credit card statement from last month. I scanned the charges. Restaurants. Gas. A hardware store. And then a charge I didn't recognize. Seattle Realty Group, $2,500. I stared at it. The date was 3 weeks ago. The same week Irina had sent that message in the family chat. I'll find a realtor. I pulled up the company name on my phone. Seattle Realty Group. Specializing in residential sales. Their website had a photo of a smiling woman in a blazer. The tagline read, "Your home, your future, our expertise." I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage. A cold, quiet rage that made my vision tunnel. I walked back to the bedroom. Evan was still asleep. I stood over him for a long moment, watching his chest rise and fall. I wanted to wake him up. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to throw his phone at his face and ask him if he had enjoyed the conversation with his sister. If he had laughed about it later. If he had high-fived her over the phone. I didn't. I walked away. The next morning, I went to work as usual. I sat through meetings. I reviewed spreadsheets. I approved invoices. I smiled at my colleagues. I answered emails. I did everything a good employee was supposed to do. And at 10:15 a.m., I locked my office door and called my lawyer. Her name was Sarah Chin. She had handled my father's estate when he passed away 2 years ago. She was sharp, methodical, the kind of woman who didn't raise her voice, but made people tremble anyway. "Claire," she said, "this is unexpected. Everything okay?" "No," I said. "Everything is not okay. My husband and his sister are planning to sell my apartment out from under me. They've been colluding with a realtor. I have recordings. I have text messages. I have credit card statements." Silence on the other end. Then Sarah's voice, measured and precise. "Tell me everything. Slowly. Don't leave anything out." I told her. I told her about the train, the phone, the call, the conversation about the buyer, the $276,000, the 11 days, the meeting on Friday, the group chat messages, the credit card charge. I told her about the red notebook, the backups, the recordings. When I finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Claire, are you sure about this?" "I'm sure. Because once we move forward with this, there's no going back. If you want to protect your assets, and I'm assuming you do, you need to be prepared for a war. Not a negotiation. A war." "I've been preparing for this my whole life," I said. "I just didn't know it." Sarah sighed. "Fine. Here's what we need to do. First, we send a cease and desist letter to the realtor. That stops the sale. Second, we file a formal legal separation. Third, we get a restraining order preventing either of them from approaching you or attempting to access your property. Fourth, there's something else," I interrupted. "What?" I took a breath. "I'm pregnant. 7 weeks. I didn't tell Evan yet. I was waiting for the right moment." Another long silence. Then Sarah's voice softened. "Claire, that changes things. I know. Legally, it gives you more leverage. But emotionally." "I know," I said again. "But I can't think about that right now. I need to think about the apartment. I need to think about the money. I need to think about—" My voice cracked. I stopped. "Claire," Sarah said. "Take a breath. We have time." "No," I said. "We don't. They have a buyer. They have a meeting on Friday. I have 11 days. 11 days to figure out how to destroy them before they destroy me." I hung up and stared at the phone. My stomach churned. I told myself it was stress. Just stress. A normal reaction to finding out your husband of 7 years was planning to strip you of everything you'd built. At 1 p.m., I left the office early. I told my assistant I had a headache. I took the train home. When I walked into the apartment, Evan was there, sitting on the couch, his phone in his hand. "Claire," he said, "we need to talk." My heart stopped. "About what?" "About Irina. She called me. She said you answered her call this morning. She said you sounded upset." I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. I didn't turn around. She told me about the apartment. "What apartment?" I turned. He was standing now. His face was pale. His eyes were darting around the room, looking everywhere but at me. "The one you're planning to sell," I said. "The one that belongs to me. The one you and your sister have been plotting to take for months." Evan's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. "Claire." "Don't," I said. "Don't lie to me." I have the recording. I have the messages. I have the credit card charge. I have everything. He went silent. The color drained from his face. I trusted you, I said. 7 years. 7 years of my life. And you were planning to destroy me behind my back. Claire, you don't understand. What don't I understand? I demanded. Explain it to me. Explain how this is okay. Explain how you could sleep in my bed, eat my food, use my money, and then sit in this room and plot to take everything from me. Evan looked at the floor. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed. A cold, hollow laugh. You didn't want to hurt me? So you decided to sneak around behind my back? You decided to let your sister handle everything? You decided to. I stopped. A sharp pain shot through my abdomen. I doubled over, clutching my stomach. The glass of water slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor. Evan rushed forward. Claire? Claire, what's wrong? I looked down. There was blood on the floor. Not from the broken glass. From me. Call an ambulance, I whispered. Now. He stood there, frozen. Call an ambulance. The apartment door swung open. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. A retired nurse in her 70s. She must have heard the glass break. Claire, she said, rushing in. Claire, honey, what happened? I couldn't answer. The pain was unbearable. The room was spinning. The last thing I saw before everything went black was Evan's face, pale, terrified, his hands shaking as he finally pulled out his phone. White ceiling. White, because I wasn't trying. It happened naturally. I looked at her. And I haven't told anyone. Not even Evan. Irina's smile flickered. Well, congratulations. A baby changes everything, doesn't it? Does it? She sat down in the chair next to Evan. She crossed her legs. She folded her hands in her lap. The picture of elegance. The picture of control. I came here to talk, she said. I wanted to clear the air. You misunderstood that phone call, Claire. I was talking about an investment property. Evan and I have been looking at rental units together. Nothing to do with your apartment. Is that right? Yes. And I'm sorry if I scared you. I speak too fast when I'm excited. You know how I get. I looked at Evan. Is that what you told her to say? He looked away. Irina leaned forward. Her voice dropped. Soft. Intimate. Almost threatening. Listen, Claire. I know you're upset. I know you're stressed. But you're pregnant now. You need to think about the baby. About what's best for the family. And right now, what's best for the family is for you to calm down. To stop making accusations. To think about what happens next. What happens next, I repeated. Yes. She glanced at Evan. We're going to take care of you. We're going to make sure you and the baby are safe. But you need to trust us. You need to believe that we have your best interests at heart. I stared at her. And in that moment, I understood. She wasn't here to apologize. She wasn't here to clear the air. She was here to make sure I stayed quiet. She was here to make sure I didn't call a lawyer. She was here to make sure I didn't fight back. Thank you for coming, I said quietly. But I'm tired. I need to rest. Irina's smile tightened. Of course. We'll be in the waiting room. She stood up and smoothed her blazer. Just think about what I said, Claire. A baby changes everything. You want what's best for the baby, don't you? She left. Evan hesitated. Then he followed her. The door clicked shut. I lay there in the silence. My hand was still on my stomach. I could feel the baby. A tiny, fragile presence. A life that had nearly ended because of them. I pulled out my phone. My backup phone. The one I kept hidden in my bag. I opened the recording app and listened to the conversation I had just recorded. Irina's voice, warm and threatening. Evan's silence, complicit and weak. I saved the file. I backed it up to the cloud. Then I called Sarah. Claire, she said. You're out of the hospital? Yes. I'm being discharged this afternoon. But something happened. Irina came to see me. She tried to guilt me into silence. She brought up the baby. She practically told me to cooperate or else. Or else what? She didn't say. But she implied that if I cooperate, they'll take care of me. If I don't, I stopped. Sarah, they're not going to stop. I thought they would. I thought once they knew about the baby, they'd back off. But they didn't. She just changed tactics. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Claire, you're in danger. I know you don't want to hear that, but you are. They're desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. What do I do? Here's what I want you to do. First, do not go back to that apartment. Not alone. I'm going to contact a security service, someone to stay at the property and change the locks. Second, I'm filing the separation papers today. Not tomorrow. Today. Third, I'm sending the cease and desist to the realtor. The sale is dead. They can't touch your property. And Evan is no longer a priority. Protect yourself. Protect your baby. Let me handle the rest. I closed my eyes. Okay. When I walked out of the hospital that afternoon, Evan was waiting for me near the entrance. He held out his hand. Claire, please. I'm going home, I said. I'm going to rest. I'm going to think about the baby. Can I come with you? No. I walked past him. I got into the cab Sarah had sent. I watched him stand there, small and pathetic, as the cab pulled away. The apartment was the same as I left it. The broken glass was gone. The floor was clean. Someone, maybe Mrs. Patterson, had cleaned it up. The kitchen counter still had my laptop on it. The folders were still open. The evidence was still there. I locked the door behind me. I walked to the bedroom. I opened the drawer with my underwear. I pulled out the red notebook. I turned to the page where I had written yesterday's entry. April 14th. Irina called. She told Evan to get rid of me. They have a buyer. 11 days. $276,000. Meeting on Friday. I wrote underneath. April 15th. Hospital. Threatened miscarriage. Irina came to visit. She knows about the baby. She tried to threaten me into silence. She said, "You want what's best for the baby, don't you?" I closed the notebook and put it back. Then I sat down on the edge of the bed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know what you're doing. Stop now or you'll regret it. I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the screen. I knew I should call Sarah. I knew I should report the threat. Instead, I took a screenshot. I backed it up. And I started planning my next move. The hotel room was small. Beige walls. A bed with starchy white sheets. A window overlooking a parking lot. It wasn't home. But home wasn't safe anymore. I had checked in under a different name. Sarah arranged it. Cash payment. No credit card trail. No way for Evan or Irina to find me. 3 days had passed since the hospital. 3 days of hiding. 3 days of silence. 3 days of staring at the ceiling and wondering how my life had become this. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Claire, I have news. The cease and desist was delivered to Seattle Realty Group this morning. The realtor called me personally. She claims she had no idea the property wasn't jointly owned. She said Irina presented it as a family asset that needed to be liquidated. Did she believe that? I don't know. But she's backing out of the sale. The buyer has been notified. The deal is dead. I exhaled. A tiny victory. But I knew Irina wouldn't give up that easily. That's not all, Sarah continued. I've been digging into Irina's background. Her divorce from Marcus. I found something interesting. What? Marcus didn't just walk away from the marriage. He was forced out. Irina fabricated evidence of abuse. She filed a restraining order. She emptied their joint accounts before he could fight back. She left him with nothing. My stomach tightened. That's her pattern. Yes. She targets people who trust her. She isolates them. She controls the narrative. And when they're vulnerable, she strikes. She did it to Marcus. Now she's doing it to me. Exactly. And Claire, I found Marcus. He lives in Portland now. He agreed to talk to you. I closed my eyes. When? Tonight. I'll send you his number. But Claire, be careful. This woman is dangerous. She's done this before. She knows exactly how to manipulate the system. I know, I said. That's why I need to be smarter. I hung up and stared at the number on my screen. I dialed. A man's voice answered. Deep. Tired. Hello. Marcus? This is Claire. I'm Evan's wife. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. Sarah Chin told me you might be willing to talk. Silence. Then a long, slow exhale. Irina. Yes. I heard she found a new target. I was wondering when you'd call. How did you survive it? Another pause. Barely. She took everything. The house. The savings. The retirement accounts. She convinced my own family that I was abusive. My mother wouldn't speak to me for 3 years. My sister still doesn't. How did she do it? She lies, Marcus said. She's the best liar I've ever met. She'll cry at the right moment. She'll say the right thing. She'll twist every word you say into something ugly. And by the time you realize what's happening, she's already won. I sat down on the edge of the bed. She's trying to take my apartment. She tried to sell it out from under me. Of course she did. She's probably trying to take your reputation too. Is she spreading rumors about you? My blood went cold. What kind of rumors? Infidelity. Emotional instability. Incompetence. Anything that makes you look like the villain. She'll tell your friends, your family, your colleagues. By the time she's done, you won't have anyone left to turn to. I remembered the text message. The unknown number. The threat. Stop now or you'll regret it. She's already starting, I said quietly. Claire, listen to me. The only way to beat her is to do exactly what she doesn't expect. She expects you to panic. She expects you to make mistakes. She expects you to be emotional and reactive. Don't be. Be cold. Be methodical. Be the kind of woman she can't manipulate. Easier said than done. I know. His voice softened. But you have something I didn't have. What? Proof. I never recorded the phone calls. I never saved the messages. I trusted her until it was too late. You already have the evidence. You already have the upper hand. Don't waste it. I looked down at my phone. The recording app. The screenshots. The emails. The red notebook. I won't, I said. We talked for another hour. Marcus told me everything. The timeline of Irina's manipulation. The way she had systematically destroyed his reputation before the divorce was even filed. The way she had used his own family against him. The way she had walked away with everything while he was left to pick up the pieces. When I hung up, I felt sick. Not from the stress. From the horror of realizing how close I had come to the same fate. I opened my laptop. I created a new folder. I named it Irina Complete File. I started organizing the evidence. The phone call. The group chat messages. The credit card charge. The hospital records. The text message threat. And now Marcus's testimony. I worked until dawn. The next morning, I called Sarah again. I need to file a restraining order, I said. Against Irina. Against Evan. I need them to stay away from me. On what grounds? I have a text message threatening me. I have evidence of a conspiracy to defraud me of my property. I have a witness who can testify to Irina's pattern of abuse. And I have a doctor's note that says stress from harassment nearly cost me my baby. Claire, that's a lot of evidence. I know. This is going to get ugly. I know that too. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Give me 3 days. I'll have the restraining order ready. And Claire, once we file this, there's no going back. You need to be prepared for the backlash. Sarah, I've been prepared my whole life. I just didn't know it. I hung up. I stared at the screen. The folder was complete. The evidence was ready. But something was nagging at me. Something Marcus had said. She's probably trying to take your reputation too. I opened my work email. I scrolled through the messages. Everything seemed normal. Invoices. Meeting requests. Status updates. Then I saw it. An email from HR, dated 2 days ago. Forwarded to my personal account by a colleague who thought I should see it. Subject, confidential, employee conduct concern. I opened it. My hands were already shaking. The email was from an anonymous source. It accused me of using company funds for personal expenses. It attached screenshots of expense reports that had been subtly altered. The dates were wrong. The amounts were inflated. The signatures looked real, but they weren't mine. I knew who had created those documents. I knew who had sent that email. Irina. She was already working on the next phase. First the apartment. Then the reputation. Then the career. And eventually the baby. I closed the laptop. I stood up. I walked to the window and looked out at the gray Seattle sky. I thought about Marcus. Sitting in Portland, alone, 7 years after his divorce. He had survived, but he had lost everything. I thought about my baby, 7 weeks old, fragile, dependent on me for everything. And I thought about Irina, sitting in her perfect house, smiling her perfect smile, believing she had already won. She was wrong. I pulled out my phone. I dialed the number of the HR director. He picked up on the second ring. Claire? I've been trying to reach you. There's been a... I know, I said. I know about the expense reports. They're forged. I have proof. But I need your help to set a trap. A trap. Yes. I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. I need you to tell the anonymous source that the investigation is progressing. I need you to tell them I'm scared. I need you to make them think they're winning. Why would we do that? Because if they think they're winning, they'll make a mistake. And when they make a mistake, I'll be there to catch them. The HR director was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Claire, what's going on? Something terrible, I said. But I'm going to fix it. I just need you to trust me. The apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and fresh coffee. I had spent the morning preparing. The kitchen table was spotless. 2 cups, a pot of coffee, a plate of pastries from the bakery down the street. Everything looked normal, inviting, like the beginning of a peaceful conversation between 2 women who wanted to resolve their differences. I knew Irina would come. She couldn't resist. I had sent the message through Evan, a carefully worded text that made it sound like I was breaking. Like the stress had finally gotten to me. Like I was ready to negotiate. I want to talk. Just us. No lawyers. No husbands. I need to understand why this is happening. Please. She replied within minutes. Of course, Claire. I've been waiting for you to come to your senses. I'll be there at 10. I had set the trap. Now I just needed her to walk into it. The hidden cameras were in place. Small. Discreet. One on the bookshelf, pointed at the table. One on the kitchen counter, angled toward the chairs. One in the living room, covering the entire space. I had spent $500 on them. It was the best investment I had ever made. The recording app was running on my phone. The backup phone was in my pocket, also recording. Redundancy. Always redundancy. That was how you won against people like Irina. You never gave them a single point of failure. At 9:58 a.m., the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Irina stood there in a tailored navy dress. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. Her smile was perfect. She looked like a woman who had already won and was just waiting for the formalities. Claire, she said warmly. You look tired. Are you sleeping? Not well, I admitted. It was true. I hadn't slept in days. But the dark circles under my eyes worked in my favor. They made me look vulnerable. Broken. Easy to manipulate. We walked to the kitchen. I poured her coffee. She sat down at the table and looked around the apartment with casual disdain. Her eyes lingered on the furniture. The paintings. The balcony with the city view. You have a lovely home, she said. I always thought so. Thank you. I hope you're not planning to keep it. I sat down across from her. What do you mean? Irina took a sip of her coffee. She set the cup down carefully. She folded her hands on the table. Her smile was gone now, replaced by something colder, more businesslike. Let's be honest with each other, she said. You and Evan haven't been happy for years. You're never home. You're obsessed with your career. You've spent more time with spreadsheets than with your own husband. And now I'm pregnant. Yes. Her eyes flickered to my stomach. Now you're pregnant. Which complicates things. It doesn't have to complicate anything. Irina laughed. A short, sharp sound. Claire, you're not naive. I know you're not. You've been planning this for weeks. You've been recording our conversations. You've been talking to lawyers. You've been building a case against me. I said nothing. The thing is, she continued, leaning forward, you're not as smart as you think you are. You think you're protecting yourself. But all you're doing is making me work harder. And when I work hard, I win. Win what? Everything. She spread her hands. Evan. The apartment. The baby. You think you can fight me? I've done this before. I know how to win. And I know how to make people like you disappear. My heart was pounding. But my voice stayed steady. What do you want? Simple. She pulled a folder from her bag. She slid it across the table. Sign these papers. I'm offering you a generous settlement. $50,000. You walk away from Evan. You walk away from the apartment. You give up any claim to joint assets. And you give me the baby. I stared at her. What? I want the baby, she said calmly. I'll raise it. It'll have a good life. Better than you could give it. You're a workaholic. You'll put the baby in daycare at 6 weeks old. You'll hire nannies. You'll miss every milestone because you're too busy balancing ledgers. Evan and I can give it a real home. You want my child. I want what's best for the child. She smiled. And what's best is a stable family. A mother who's present. A father who's involved. Not a career woman who views motherhood as an inconvenience. I felt the rage building. It was hot. Fierce. It wanted to explode out of me. To scream. To throw the coffee in her face. To slap that perfect smile off her perfect face. But I didn't. Because that was exactly what she expected. I picked up the folder. I opened it. I read the papers. $50,000. Full custody of my unborn child to Irina Vance. Termination of all parental rights upon birth. I looked up. This is your plan? This is your only option, she said. If you don't sign, I'll destroy you. I'll make sure you lose your job. I'll make sure everyone knows about your affair with that client in Portland. I'll make sure your reputation is so ruined that no one will ever hire you again. I didn't have an affair. It doesn't matter. She shrugged. I'll make it true. I'll create emails. I'll forge text messages. I'll find witnesses. I've done it before. And I'll do it again. You'll be unemployable. You'll lose the apartment anyway. You'll lose everything. And you'll lose the baby. I stared at her. You're a monster. No. She shook her head. I'm a realist. I know how the world works. Women like you, independent, successful, ambitious, you don't get to have families. You get to have careers. You get to have money. You get to have freedom. But you don't get to have children. Not if I have anything to say about it. I was quiet for a long moment. Then I said, Irina, can I ask you something? What? Do you remember the phone call? The one you made to Evan. Her smile flickered. Which one? The one where you said, we already have a buyer for the apartment. $276,000 cash. Just get her to sign. Irina's eyes widened. Claire, do you remember what I said to you after that call? She said nothing. Her face had lost color. Her hands were gripping the edge of the table. I continued, that I was listening. And I was. I recorded everything. I pulled out my backup phone. I pressed play. Irina's voice filled the kitchen. Listen, Claire. I know you're upset. I know you're stressed. But you're pregnant now. You need to think about the baby. You need to trust us. Irina's face went white. I pressed stop. I have more. The call from the train. The group chat messages. The credit card charge. The threat text. The forged expense reports. And now, this conversation. The one where you demanded my baby. Irina stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. You set me up. I set a trap, I corrected. You walked into it. You think this is going to work? You think a judge is going to believe you over me? I'm a mother. I'm a respected member of the community. You're just. I'm just a woman with proof. I pulled out my laptop. I opened the folder. I turned the screen to face her. Photos. Recordings. Screenshots. Testimony from Marcus. Emails from the HR director. Everything. Organized. Labeled. Undeniable. Irina stared at the screen. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. This is what I want, I said. You and Evan are going to sign a document. You will never contact me again. You will never approach me. You will never attempt to see the baby. You will not speak to any mutual friends, colleagues, or family members about me. You will erase me from your lives. Completely. Irina laughed. It was a hollow, brittle sound. And if I refuse? Then I'll send everything to the police. I'll file for a restraining order. I'll press charges for fraud, extortion, and harassment. I'll contact every news station in Seattle. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did to Marcus. What you tried to do to me. I paused. I'll destroy you, Irina. That's a promise. She stood there, frozen. The perfect smile was gone. The perfect hair was starting to come loose. She looked like a woman who had just realized she wasn't in control anymore. You can't do this, she whispered. Watch me. The doorbell rang. I walked to the door. I opened it. Sarah Chin was standing there with a man in a suit. The process server. Claire, Sarah said. We're ready. I turned to Irina. This is my lawyer. And this is a process server. They're here to deliver the restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of me. If you come near me again, I'll have you arrested. Irina's face contorted. You'll regret this. I don't think I will. She stormed past me. She grabbed her bag. She walked to the door. She paused at the threshold and looked back at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, she said. No, I agreed. It's not. But I've already won. She left. The door slammed behind her. I stood there for a long moment. My legs were shaking. My hands were shaking. I felt the tears coming. Not from sadness. From relief. From the sheer exhaustion of fighting for my life. Sarah walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. You did well. I want to go home, I said. My real home. My apartment. I want to stop hiding. Sarah nodded. It's over, Claire. You won. I looked down at my stomach. I placed my hand on the tiny bump. The baby was still there. Still alive. Still fighting. Just like its mother. 1 year later. The balcony was my favorite place now. I stood there every morning, coffee in hand, watching the city wake up. The rain was gentle today. A soft drizzle that made the streets gleam and the buildings look like they were wrapped in silk. Seattle in April. The same rain that had been falling when my world fell apart. But the world hadn't fallen apart. It had just rearranged itself. I looked down at the tiny bundle in my arms. Sophia. 7 months old. Dark hair like mine. Eyes that changed from gray to blue depending on the light. She was awake, blinking up at me with that curious expression babies get when they're trying to understand the world. You're too young to understand any of this, I whispered. But someday I'll tell you. I'll tell you about the train. The phone call. The day I almost lost you before I even knew you existed. Sophia gurgled. She reached up and grabbed my finger. Her grip was surprisingly strong. I smiled. You're a fighter. Just like your mother. The apartment was different now. I had redecorated. New furniture. New paint. New curtains. The old memories were gone. Erased. Replaced by something brighter. Something that belonged only to me and my daughter. The red notebook was still there. In the drawer with my underwear. But it wasn't for keeping secrets anymore. It was a reminder. A warning. A testament to what I had survived. I had survived. I walked back inside and placed Sophia in her crib. She immediately started chewing on her stuffed elephant. I watched her for a moment, feeling the familiar swell of love and terror that came with being a mother. The love was overwhelming. The terror was manageable. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Claire, I just got the final judgment. The divorce is finalized. Evan signed everything. He's not contesting anything. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Did he say anything? He asked about the baby. I told him you were fine. That's all. I closed my eyes. Evan. The man I had loved for 7 years. The man who had stood by while his sister tried to destroy me. The man who had let her plan the sale of my apartment, the theft of my savings, the destruction of my reputation. I had offered him one chance. At the hearing, I had looked at him across the courtroom and said, "Tell me the truth. Tell me you never wanted this. Tell me you were just weak." He had looked at the floor. He had said nothing. So I had walked away. I had stopped waiting for an apology that would never come. I had stopped waiting for him to become the man I thought he was. Thank you, Sarah. For everything. You did all the work, Claire. I just filed the paperwork. I hung up and looked at the envelope on my nightstand. The divorce decree. The final signature. The end of a chapter one never wanted to write. The trial had been brutal. Irina had tried everything. Character assassination. Fabricated evidence. False accusations. She had even tried to claim I was an unfit mother. But the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings. The messages. The testimony from Marcus. The forged expense reports. The HR investigation. The judge had seen through her. He had ordered her to stay away from me permanently. He had issued a restraining order that covered me, my apartment, my workplace, and my child. He had awarded me full custody of Sophia. And he had made it clear that any future contact would result in criminal charges. Irina had appealed. She had lost. She had appealed again. She had lost again. The last time I saw her was in the courtroom. She looked different. Smaller. Her hair was dull. Her clothes were wrinkled. She looked like a woman who had run out of lies. She had tried to speak to me in the hallway. "Claire, please." I had walked past her. I hadn't looked back. Now I stood in my kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water, when I heard a noise from the living room. My security camera. The one I had installed at the front door. The one that sent alerts to my phone whenever someone approached. I pulled out my phone. I looked at the screen. Irina. Standing outside my door. She looked terrible. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red. She was clutching a paper bag like it was a lifeline. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She looked like a woman who had lost everything. I watched her for a long moment. She didn't knock. She didn't ring the bell. She just stood there, staring at the door, like she was waiting for it to open on its own. I thought about calling the police. I thought about shouting through the door. I thought about doing exactly what I had promised I would do if she ever came near me again. But I didn't. I opened the door. Irina looked up. Her eyes widened. "Claire, I didn't think you'd. What do you want?" She took a shaky breath. "I wanted to apologize. I know it's too late. I know you'll never forgive me. But I needed to say it. I needed you to know that I'm sorry." I said nothing. "I was wrong," she continued. "Everything I did was wrong. The apartment. The divorce. The baby. I was so angry at the world. So angry at everyone who had what I didn't. I took it out on you. And I destroyed my own family in the process. Is that supposed to make me feel sorry for you?" "No." She shook her head. "I don't expect that. I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did. And I understand that I can never take it back." I looked at her. The woman who had tried to destroy me. The woman who had tried to steal my apartment, my reputation, my career, my child. The woman who had nearly killed my unborn baby with stress and fear. She looked broken. She looked defeated. She looked like she had finally run out of people to blame. But I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel anything. "Irina," I said, "I'm going to tell you something. And I want you to listen carefully." She nodded. "I don't forgive you. I don't think I ever will. You tried to take everything from me. You tried to destroy my life. You tried to take my daughter. And the only reason you failed is because I was smarter than you." Irina winced. "I know. But I'm not going to hate you either." I stepped forward. "Hating you would mean letting you live in my head. Letting you control my emotions. Letting you have power over me. And I've spent the last year taking that power back." She was quiet. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. "So here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to leave. You're going to walk away. And you're never going to come back. If I see you again, I'll call the police. I'll press charges. I'll do everything I promised I would do. That hasn't changed." "I understand." "Do you?" She nodded. "I understand that I lost. I lost everything. And I deserved it." I looked at her one more time. Then I stepped back into the apartment. "Goodbye, Irina." I closed the door. I stood there for a long moment. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. I leaned against the door and closed my eyes. Sophia started crying from her crib. I walked to the nursery and picked her up. She was so small, so fragile, so completely dependent on me. "It's okay, sweetheart," I whispered. "It's over. It's finally over." I held her close and walked to the window. The rain was clearing. The clouds were parting. A thin shaft of sunlight broke through and illuminated the city below. I thought about my father. About the years he spent teaching me to be careful, to be precise, to document everything, to never trust blindly. I had forgotten those lessons. I had let Evan into my life without offense. I had let Irina manipulate me without a fight. But I had learned. I had survived. And now I was stronger. I looked down at the city. The buildings. The traffic. The people rushing through their lives. None of them knew what I had been through. None of them knew what I had survived. But I knew. And that was enough. I walked back to the nursery and laid Sophia in her crib. I pulled out the red notebook from the drawer. I opened it to the last page. April 14th. Irina called. She told Evan to get rid of me. They have a buyer. 11 days. $276,000. Meeting on Friday. I read the words and smiled. Such a long time ago. Such a different woman. I turned the page and wrote one final entry. April 14th, 1 year later. I'm standing in my apartment. My apartment. The one I bought with my own money. My daughter is sleeping in the next room. My career is thriving. I have friends. I have a future. I have everything I fought for. I didn't forgive her. I just stopped being afraid. I closed the notebook and put it back in the drawer. Sophia stirred. I looked at her peaceful face. My daughter. My miracle. The reason I had kept fighting. I'll tell you the whole story someday, I whispered. But not today. Today, you just need to know one thing. I leaned over the crib and kissed her forehead. Your mother is a survivor. And so are you. The sun broke through the clouds completely. The room filled with golden light. I walked to the window and looked out at the city I loved. The rain was gone. The sky was blue. And my life was finally my own.